So I want you to have crazy, stupid dreams and buy the stuff that you want, but don't do it with earned income. Do it with passive income.
Hey, make sure you check us out at therealestatechillpodcast.com. Buy your real estate merch now. Real estate merch with swag. A brand for hustlers only. Let's go!
Welcome back to the newest episode of the Real Estate and Chill Podcast. I'm your host, James Chattery, Financed by James on Instagram, here with
Kevin Iglesias, Associate Real Estate Broker. Today, as always, it's $1 million episode. This has been an episode we've been trying to get together for a very long time. We got the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only Bryan Karp in the building. Let's go!
I'm saving my popper.
So, please, Bryan, for everyone who doesn't know you, who lives under a rock, please introduce yourself.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate working around this schedule to get it done. So I am Bryan Karp, an associate broker at Coach Real Estate, a.k.a. the sales giant, a.k.a. mailbox money, a.k.a. the illiterate millionaire.
I love it.
You see his face everywhere. You might see it on cookies, too, if you're at closing.
It's all about brand. It's all about branding this face around the business.
I remember when I was driving through Suffolk and I was just new to the business. I was just seeing your face everywhere on what do you call it? On storefronts, I was seeing it just randomly everywhere. On houses,
we call
everywhere.
it omnipresent, right? How do you live omnipresent? It's being everywhere, right?
I love that.
Someone walked up to me one day like, Bryan, we were at the movie theaters in Hoaxville and we saw your ad on the movie screen. And I was like, I don't have ads on the movie screen. So then I realized they just must have seen a sign or saw something else, but it was just being omnipresent, being everywhere.
Do you have a term for everything?
Maybe.
You probably do.
You're like the omnipresent. You're like the omnipresent.
So give us a little.
That's why I'm saving my thing.
So give us a little breakdown. How you got started? How long you've been in the business, and how you've built this tremendous, successful business that you built.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. So I call this my first comic book. So I grew up in Belmore. Grew up in Nassau County. I was never the school person. Wasn't a bad kid in school, but literally had zero interest in school. So I was the kid who would sit in science class, knee would be racing up and down, and I would stare at the classroom door. And there was literally this clock frozen above the door. And the 45-minute science class felt like 4 hours long. Today, I wake up at 4 a.m., I go to bed at 10 o'clock, and the day is gone in a snap. So it's so funny when you find your addiction, you find your passion, you find your oxygen, time doesn't exist. My father was a union construction worker. He had these big meat hooks as hands, right? So he grabs my hand one day and he's like, Bri, school's not for everybody. He said, learn a trade. You'll always be able to feed your family. So one thing about me is I've always been coachable. So I was like, all right, Pop, no problem. And I went to a trade school. I went to a BOCES, and my plan was to graduate high school and go on to the trades. You know what it costs to get a plumber or electrician into your house. And then it turned out my senior year in high school, I got offered a full scholarship to play football in college. So now I'm at the crossroads because I got mom on this shoulder who's an educator, and she's like, Bri, free school? You better go. Dad's like, get out there, start hustling. I'm like this. Right, what do I do? What do I do? And, I think about it. I pray on it for a day or two, and it comes to me every morning when I wake up and I'm brushing my teeth, all I could think about is football. Every night when I go to bed, I'm dreaming about football. So I'm like, this is what I got to do with my life. But some of you people listening who may not know, or you guys don't know, is I have a severe learning disability. So I have dyslexia. Dyslexia is a learning disability when you see numbers and letters inversed. So today I only read on the 3rd or 4th grade level. So for me, college was never in the cards for me. But Stony Brook gave me an amazing package. They gave me tutors and anything, academic advisors, anything I needed. So I ended up getting a scholarship to play football at Stony Brook. Graduated as a 2-time All-American. Plan was to go to the NFL, right? And that would have been a wrap. Senior year, had my second knee surgery and realized I wasn't going to league. Now it's 2005, top of the housing market. Economy is on fire. Couldn't get a job anywhere. And I'm like this. What do I do in my life? Right? Buddy of mine on the football team gave me this book that changed my life forever. First book I ever read cover to cover. And I can tell you guys, I didn't read it. I listened to it on, and this is before we had Audible. I had one of those, can I curse on this? I had one of those fucking yellow tape recorders for the blind and dyslexic, but it's almost like they wanted to embarrass me. It was like the size of like a mini chest. And I used to keep that in the front seat of my car, right? And I had an 89 LeBaron convertible back then. And I listened to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And for everyone who doesn't know, every single person in the world should read that book who's interested in real estate. All it talks about is passive income, right? Entrepreneurship and real estate. And at that time, I was dumb enough to think that they wrote the book for me. So 2005, top of the last housing market, I ran out and I bought a two-family house. Two-family house, blocks away from EPM Studios. At that time, my girlfriend today, Jessica, was just my wife, right? Well, vice versa, because I'm dyslexic. My wife today was just my girlfriend, Jessica. Me and her were living upstairs. We rented out the entire downstairs for $2,000. And my monthly mortgage payment, $1,900 a month.
Wow.
So I was like,
So you're
holy
making
cow,
money.
I'm living here making $100 a month. And I said, this is it. This is what I'm going to do in my life. I'm going to buy rental houses. So your boy, the sales giant, a.k.a. literate millionaire, a.k.a. mailbox money, only got his real estate license almost a decade and a half ago for one reason, to be the inside player. Started this whole business as a part-time job. First year, 3 houses, friends and family. Then 10, then 20, then 100, right? For a decade straight, I've been doing 100 transactions a year. Last 3 or 4 years in a row, I've done over 200 transactions.
That's crazy.
Every dollar I made, no fancy cars, no fancy watches. Every dollar I put back into real estate.
Wow.
That's a mic drop. That's
I mean,
definitely a
come
mic
on.
drop.
I'm speechless right now. That whole timeline, that whole story that you just gave us, first and foremost, that was amazing. We have a lot of guests on the show, and the way you just said that was crazy because I felt that. Like that was really good.
Yeah, you can definitely feel the passion behind it.
Yeah.
You know, so let's talk about this, right? Because people, when they make commission, how much money should they be setting aside to invest into real estate? I mean, everything's situational based, but like for you, what was your setup as far as that?
My setup, the way so I don't believe in debt, okay? Even though you sell debt, right? And we need debt to run the businesses, I don't believe in debt, right? So my entire portfolio is owned outright. I only brought leverage in on one property. I bought an apartment building last year. And just the numbers made so much more sense, and it was so much more sexy having debt involved in it. Regret in my life is that I didn't bring out more debt when it was free, and now it's more expensive. But I was so scared and so stupid, I couldn't understand debt or wanted to worry about leverage and all that. So I ran out and started building my portfolio debt-free. I was just running around making money and writing checks for it. And that's how I basically built the entire portfolio. So listen, the biggest mistake everybody makes is they start making money and they change their fucking lifestyle, right? You got to picture, I was selling 100 homes a year, living in an average $400,000 house in Lake Grove. And what do? We put our head down, we kept working, we sold 150 houses the next year, and we didn't buy any new cars, we didn't go on any trips, but what do? We bought 2 more properties. And the next year, 3 more properties. So everybody wants to be wealthy today, and they're not willing to sacrifice for a decade to have a legacy, right? Like you guys are great examples. You started this podcast 2 years ago. I came in here and was like, holy cow, that is so impressive. Because everyone and their brother asked me to be on a podcast, and I say no. And the reason I say no is because I know that podcast is going to be gone in a month from now. You guys started this 2 years ago, right? And you're continuing to do it. So now I was like, yeah, absolutely, I got to do it, right? Delayed gratification. Because listen, everybody, I don't want to say everybody, the majority of the people out there, they want to look cool, right? Cool guys go fucking broke. Nobody is playing for the legacy, and that's what I'm playing for, right? I got into real estate to do one thing, change the Karp family forever and build generational wealth. It's just a byproduct that I built a great real estate business that's selling a lot of houses. So when you say, is there an exact amount? It's anyone who's starting full-time in this, bring your housing expenses down as low as humanly possible and save every dollar besides what you got to pay Uncle Sam and start buying real estate. Biggest regret? Your boy didn't buy more real estate.
That's funny because that's exactly what I hear. Like from investors like you who have been in the game for a while, always like their biggest regret is I didn't buy more, or I didn't buy or I sold something, or whatever the case may be. So real estate is just like the biggest vehicle towards financial freedom, I would say.
90% of the first generation of millionaires were made through real estate. right? And I realized I was never going to be a doctor, right? I was never going to be a lawyer. I was never going to be an engineer. So if I wanted to have this crazy, stupid, insane life, there was only one way: be a salesman.
Yeah, I mean, sales is the way to go. You know what's one thing very impressive about you is that you have dyslexia, right? And most people would use that to hold them back from, I can't do this, I can't do that, but you didn't let anything hold you back.
I feel like we all have things that will keep us in bed every single day, right? We all got excuses. We all have, I always call it, in my sales course, I call it Bad Bryan, right? We all have those drunk monkeys on our shoulder telling us that we can't do something or this can't be achieved. Like, to me, that I only share it with everybody because I want everyone to know that, hey, that there's no crutches, right? We all got things, but put those things aside and create the life that you want.
So you're saying you just never let that be an excuse for you?
Absolutely.
Wow. That's amazing. Going back to Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like the book that you've read that has helped you become, would you say, the person you are today? Like that book is...
It started the whole thing. It got me interested in real estate because I graduated from college. Listen, I'm obsessive. I'm an addictive personality. That's just me. I'm over the top, right? I graduated from playing college football and I needed something else to chase.
Yeah.
Right? I took all that energy of athletics, of trying to go to the NFL and try to be the number one athlete in Long Island. I took all of that to say, I'm going to build the biggest business, right? And I'm going to build, the biggest rental portfolio. So that book was a game changer. And it doesn't give any secrets. It just says, get into real estate, buy real estate, and stop trading your time for money.
Would you say you were always like this? Like since you were born? Like were you always like, high energy, high octane,
high protein,
super
aggressive? Listen, I'm passionate about what I do, right? I'm obsessed with what I do. To really be great at something, you have to be obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And I'm just lucky that I found this, right? Because if I didn't find real estate, I don't know what I'd be doing with my life.
So another thing that's very impressive, you only sold 3 houses your first year, which now you're doing 100 plus transactions a year, 200 plus transactions a year. What were you doing? Because I feel like a couple years back, people mentioned, and I've even seen your flyers, like you still door knock. Do you still do that now?
So I started the whole business by prospecting, right? Never had any money, was never buying Zillow leads or bus stop benches or TV commercials, right? I never had any money. So when I started this business, I just started cold calling and door knocking. Expired listings, for sale by owner. I was the king of expired listings in 2010, 11, 12, right? If you were a listing agent and you had a house that was coming off the market, you would say, resign with me, extend with me, or Bryan Karp's going to be at your door the next day in the areas that I did a ton of business in.
Which, like I said, it's impressive because a lot of agents, when they get to your level, they're like, oh, I don't want to door knock, I don't want to cold call, I don't want to do any of that, right? They just expect.
So 2019, right? But this is before I started a team, right? And we'll talk about that and why that was set up. But 2019, it was December 30th, 2019. I call my assistant, Portia, up. And I said, how many transactions are we at? She's like, well, you just closed the last deal, which was 205 houses. Okay?
Wow.
That was no team, not owning a brokerage, me and 2 full-time admin. And it was around 12 o'clock. So normal people would cut out, right? Go to the bar, hang out with their friends, celebrate. What did I do? I pulled my car over and I door knocked for 3 hours.
Wow.
Why did I door knock? I didn't door knock because I needed more business. I door knocked because I never wanted to lose what got me to where I am. And I was so afraid of the momentum stopping.
It's funny is I feel the same way. A lot of people, when they have so much momentum going, so many closings, they just get like, all right, it's time to sit back and relax. But I'm the opposite. I'm like, no, you have to keep going. You got to keep going. Don't lose that momentum. Yeah.
It's because, Kevin, they're playing a smaller game, right? So people ask me all the time, Bryan, how did you sell 100 houses on your own? How did you sell 200 houses on your own? How did your team do 265 transactions? That is not the question they should be asking me. The question they should ask me is, what the hell did the guy do with all the money?
You put it back into the business,
back into
the rental income.
Back into real estate, right? It's not impressive selling hundreds of homes a year, right? Selling hundreds of homes a year was a byproduct because we needed to create that much money to be able to buy enough properties to build enough passive income to feed my grandkids, right? So that's what it is because they're like, well, Bryan, you're driving a Camry, right? Bryan, you live in a modest house. Where did all the money go? Well, the money went into buying real estate, buying assets that will pay me month in and month out, market up, market down. Right? So we bought an apartment building last year, and something that I've always dreamed about, and I've always, kind of thought that's something that we really need to do for the portfolio. So I have 2 boys, 9 and 10, right? My son Brody's 10 years old, red glasses. Brock, 9 years old. He thinks he's a football athlete already, right? He's got the sideways hat. He's got a gold chain on. He got nicer shoes than me and you on. I bring him to the apartment building. I pull him out of the car. I sit him on the porch, and I said, guys, if you ever sell this building, I'm going to come back from the grave and kill you. Now, I scared them a little bit, and it was a joke, but I see these amazing assets of real estate, these apartment buildings in the city, strip centers. Somebody owns them. One family member decided to buy that, right? And now if the next family member can pass it on, that's how you build generational wealth, right? The Karp family will never be the same from the amount of real estate that I have purchased and I have under management. Right? One day, people will forget about me selling houses. But the real estate that we own and the real estate that I pass on to the next generation, that is what is going to last, hopefully, hundreds and hundreds of years.
Generational wealth. That's
it all
the
starts
goal.
with one risk taker also.
Yeah.
That's what it is. But I have to agree with you on something, like what you said about the apartment building, like never selling it. I've had this situation happen to me before where I was like driving around in I think it was in Long Island City, right? So I was driving around and I saw this one building and I was like, wow, this is the most beautiful building. I don't know what drew me to it. It was just such a nice building. I was like, I need to own something like this one day. Yeah. Obviously, it was a multi-million-dollar building, but like I was like, I need to own something like this. And like just seeing it, envisioning me owning it is just something that motivates me like continuously forever.
15 years ago, I never said I was going to open up the biggest real estate, business in Long Island. The goal was to build the biggest no-debt rental portfolio, right? And build enough passive income so me and my family never have to worry about money ever again. Right. So now the nice thing is about you being so young, a lot of the properties that I bought in 2010 and 2011, now we're selling them and doing 1031 exchanges and moving that money into bigger assets.
Yeah.
Right. So that building is something that's achievable, but you need to start buying stuff now, hold it. Right. And then you'll wake up and you'll be the old man who's 39 years old and you'll be like, holy cow, all the properties that I bought 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, look at what they're worth and look, they're paid off.
I hope to look like him when I'm 39 years old. Oh my gosh, you look like you're like 25.
So when you go into an appointment, being that you have an investor cap on, do you go with the aspect of, hey, look, I like to purchase this if it's a sexy deal first before putting it on the market?
So I've always had one rule of thumb. Listen, I got my real estate license to be an inside player. Every single house I go to, I'm always like, does that make sense for me and the family? But honestly, the rule of thumb that I've always followed is my job is to sit there and help the person. I know it sounds corny, but I really feel that you guys are so in depth into real estate and you're an incredible agent, right? And you're always looking out for everybody. But there are so many clowns out there and people who just don't help the seller. People only sell 1 or 2 homes a year. I sell a few hundred homes a year. I own a lot of homes. I'm always dealing with real estate. There's nothing that could happen in a transaction that I haven't seen 300 times. So I always feel like I come to every appointment and my goal is to help them get the most money humanly possible, right? So I actually generally never buy any of the houses I ever put on the market. People all the time like, Bryan, I can't believe you put that 2-family on the market. I said I did because they wanted top dollar. And for me buying it as an investor, I'm not going to pay top dollar for it. If they want top dollar, I got to put it out there to the market so the wolves can get it. So really every house I go to, my goal is one thing, to get them top dollar. And I've done the right thing every single time and it's always followed me. I had a transaction that was a life-changing amount of money and it was because I did the right thing for every person in that transaction and not for myself. So I always feel like what you put out there goes around. And if you're going to be in this game for a long time, right, you play the long game, right? I always preach the long game. I'm a success today because I did the right thing 15 years ago, right? You're waking up early and working out today. That's not going to do anything today. That's going to help you, right, in 5 or 6 years from now. So to me, doing the right thing today is going to help me in 5 or 10 years from now.
It's amazing. Let's talk about personal branding, because I feel like you're really, really big on personal branding, and especially with you door knocking and cold calling. Like I'm assuming it makes it so much easier. Like,
It does.
oh, I know who you are. I've seen your signs everywhere, whatever the case may be. How important is it for an agent to build their personal brand instead of pushing the agency or company that they're with?
Yeah, so it's super important. So here's a mic drop for every single person. If you do not own your own website, you're crazy. Right? It shouldn't be, Kevin at, XYZ Real Estate, right? It should always be Kevin, your name, right? Mine is sold by Bryan, right? My phone numbers I own, right? And listen, I'm a partner in a brokerage, so I'm all about having a great broker behind you. As we were talking earlier about, Cliffco Mortgage and your new bank. I'm a huge fan of them. They're great.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. But to me, you're building your own personal brand. So from the way beginning, I was like, okay, I'm not looking at 3 to 4 homes a year doesn't get me and my family to where we need to go, right? So if I'm going to build something that's going to do 50 or 100, I never dreamed of 200, right? Homes a year, I have to build a brand. So how do you build a brand? You have to go face name recognition, right? I don't think that I'm this good looking person or this Adonis. I just knew that my face is something that can never be changed. And your face is your greatest asset. Right? Because if I was a dishonest person or did bad things, I couldn't walk around in public. I couldn't drive around with my face on my car. Right? So I said right away, I have to build it around my face, because then when I'm on the football field coaching my kids, they're going to be like, oh, there's a real estate guy. I go out to dinner with my wife. There's a real estate guy. Right? So it's branding 24/7 because it's built around my face. And then we built it around the name. Right? So I would be door knocking. I remember I would be door knocking 10 years ago, and people would be shutting doors in my face. Today or last year or the year before, I would door knock. They'd be like, oh, I know you. Oh, I know you. Or you call an expired or for sale by owner. Yeah, I know you. It just helps because the biggest thing in sales when you are outbound selling, right, and people aren't coming looking for you, is you're trying to get you want them to know that you're a real person, a real asset. You're trying to get them to understand that you're a real brick and mortar. You're not just a sleazy salesperson, right? You call them, they never heard of your company, they never heard of you. Now you're trying to sell them that you're just legitimate. So the nice thing about building a name, a face, and a brand is right away they feel more comfortable.
They get to know you, yeah. They feel like they know you.
And then when you build a brand, right, the first 10 years, you're going to have to go out there and bring in the business. And then the next 10 years, the business is going to come to you.
And now this is everything that you teach on the Illiterate Millionaire course.
Yeah, on the Illiterate Millionaire. So I have an online course, over 300 students across the United States, bigger success than I ever thought. I just thought that it was something that I owed the world, that I needed to document how I went from selling 3 houses to my friends and family to over 200, and how I've been able to net over 7 figures in real estate, not as a broker owner, just as a salesperson, right? I thought it was like my destinies. I had to put it in a course. So one day if my kids needed a job, they can go in the course and I'd be there teaching them. But in the course, I teach every single person. In the course, I'm not giving you a Facebook ad to give you leads. I'm not telling you to call Zillow and ask them for leads in a zip code. I'm teaching you how to door knock, what scripts to use, how to follow up, and what your daily routine should look like. And then how do you scale a business?
Hey, make sure you check us out at therealestateandchillpodcast.com. Buy your real estate merch now. Real estate merch with swag. A brand for hustlers only. Let's go!
When did you have that moment that, like, from 3 houses to 100 houses, like, wow, this is really happening, like, this is it?
It was tolerance, and it didn't happen early. Listen, this game of real estate is a winning lotto ticket, right? But this is stressful. Like, there's been a lot of sacrifice. It's very easy to be here almost 15 years later, and I have the houses, and I have the passive income, and I have other businesses, right? But the first decade, it sucked. Right? This was hard. My family sacrificed, right? My kids didn't see me. I was working 80, 90 hours a week. And then when I was home, I was glued to this phone. Now, only today I've scaled it with the systems and the process and bringing in the right people. But in the beginning of this business, I couldn't breathe at times. But for a guy like me who's got a below average education, right, and is not that smart, there was only one way to do this. and it was going to be in sales. So I had to take advantage of this opportunity. I always think of myself as like a professional athlete, right? So if I would have got signed to the New York Giants and I would have got $1 million contract or a $2 million contract, how would I run my life? Well, if I did that, I know I'd be waking up super early, right? I know I would never be out partying and drinking, right? Or doing drugs, because this is a gift from God going to the NFL. I would be eating right? I would be always doing the right thing, right? So to me, why would I not treat myself, if I got this gift of real estate to make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, maybe even millions of dollars a year for certain people, why would I not be a great steward of it, right? And why would I not take it as a blessing and not think that it's always going to come like this, right? I've been blessed, and my business has been tremendous for a decade, but we treated it like it could die tomorrow and I can blow my knee out, right? And they may not pick me up as a newscaster in the NFL. So to me, it was like every single dollar we were blessed with, we needed to really squeeze it, right? And invest it properly, pay our tithe, but make sure that we invest it properly so we can multiply it and it could start paying us one day.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Honestly,
I feel like I'm just I say I'm a student of the game all the time. Like, I'm always learning. I'm always willing to learn. And like you said, just being very coachable. So everything that you're saying, I'm just like listening, really listening to what you're giving us here. 2 questions I want to ask you. If you could go back in time, maybe a hard question, would you trade this to be in the NFL now? Or would you stick with what you're doing
That's
right now?
That's a good question. I like that question.
I wouldn't trade this for anything in the world.
Not even the NFL?
No, nothing.
Super Bowl ring.
I wake up every single morning and like, this is not even real, right? I keep shaking myself. This is not even real, right? From a guy who reads on a 4th grade level to have built this tremendous business, to have acquired this much real estate, and then to be financially free and be 39 years old. This is the greatest gift in the entire world. People work their entire life to be like where I am. So now it's my job to share it with the world and hopefully inspire a few people to play for tomorrow, right? Buy assets.
I mean, when did the team come all in play? Because obviously, you still have 2 assistants, right?
I have two assistants.
2 assistants, okay. So when did you say, all right, you know what, it's time to build a team? Because I feel like somebody who's doing that at your level would have had a team like years ago.
Because everyone thinks there's a lot, and I'm not, and I don't ever want to be disrespectful to anyone who has a team and doing very well with it. But the money is in listing and selling homes. Right, so from the way beginning, I don't work with home buyers, right? So year 3 in real estate, I realized that I can only be the best at one thing, right? And I realized I could be the best listing agent in Suffolk County, right? That was my goal, right? So that was my goal. So immediately I said I can't work with home buyers anymore. So I used to just refer them out. And then I got to a certain level where I couldn't even handle the amount of sellers who needed my help. So then I decided to, when I became when I got involved with Coach Real Estate, we decided to open up the team because I'm so blessed the phone's ringing. So we wanted to have great people who could share my name and handle those appointments and go out on those appointments. Because now I'm buying my time back, right? I always said to my wife, Jessica, I will get us to a level one day where people will wonder when I'm on the football field coaching or I'm at every single charity event, like, does this guy even have a job? Does this guy even work? I do, but I did it a decade ago.
Yeah, smart. Real smart.
So if you want any advice, teams are great, but the money is in you listing homes. Focus on it. That's it. And everything else will come. Right? Yeah, it's great to have buyer agents because you can give all those buyer leads too, right? And it's great if you're super niche and you're not chasing everything and you believe in abundance, you're not going to want every single listing. There's certain things that don't fit the criteria of what you do for your business. Right? It might be a listing in Brooklyn. It takes you 3 hours to get there, 3 hours to get home, and you may not be the best in that area. Right? There's certain areas where I consider myself the best. And there's certain areas that I'm not. So what I do is I refer to someone else. That's before I had the team. Now I create a team so those people can go and serve those clients.
You're ranked number 1 in Suffolk County?
So I'm the number 1 agent in Suffolk County as per Real Trends in the Wall Street Journal. And then I have the number 1 real estate team in New York State as per Real Trends in the Wall Street Journal.
Wow.
When are you gonna pop the confetti?
I know, right? And there's so many punchlines that I'm just waiting for.
To have more at the end of the day, to have more flexes, it doesn't, I'm not even playing for that, right? I'm playing for the legacy of my kids' kids, right? That's really what I'm playing for. So that the houses sold are great, and it's always flattering when people bring it up, but it was just a byproduct to help enough people, make enough money, right, to be able to build the portfolio.
You're basically with us now, but you're working towards the future.
Absolutely.
Like you're always 10 steps ahead of the game.
I'm playing 5 years ahead of the game.
Yeah.
The decisions that I'm making today are decisions that are good for the Karp family in 5 years from now, right? I don't do anything that is not good for us in 5 years.
So I have a follow-up question to this, and don't take this as disrespect.
No,
but
please.
Why not retire? Like, why not retire? Like, you've clearly built out your portfolio. Like, you have money coming in. What is it? Mailbox money. Mailbox money.
Come on, every first of the month.
Absolutely.
So
we give them to the fifth. We give them to the fifth until they're late.
Oh, yeah. Then there's late fees.
So you built everything. So why not retire? What's keeping you still going?
Because it gets old sitting on the beach drinking Coronas, and I promise you that. I promise you one day, and from my lips to God's ears, that both of you guys will be financially free, and I guarantee you'll take a few days off, and then you'll be like, what's next? I promise you that, right? And I know it sounds corny, the old man saying that, right? Once you're there, it's easy to say, but when you're playing an infinite game, I'm playing an infinite game, right? An infinite game is a game that never ends, right? I'm playing the infinite game of Karpopoly, right? It's a game of Monopoly that I'm playing for my family. So, yes, I'm blessed and I don't need to wake up at 4 a.m., but I'm still up. Me and you were texting at 5:30, right? I'm already been up for an hour. So, I love this business. I love this game, right? Anyone who's playing just for money is not playing with the same mindset that I am. I'm not playing for money. I'm playing because I love the game. I love the game. And what I realize, what makes someone like me feel good and what makes me feel validated is getting a little bit better every single day, right? And if I just sat home and did nothing, would I really be improving every single day, right? I'm a selfish person. And what I mean by that is I want to be the best at everything. So what do I mean by that? I want to be the best husband, right? So I want to have a great relationship with my wife, right? Like treat her like a queen. Every single morning I wake up before everyone, and you know what I do? I wash every single dish in the sink. So when she wakes up, there's an empty sink, right? I want to have the greatest relationship with my boys, right? So they're 9 and 10. My son Brody's not in the sports. He's in the Cub Scouts. Guess who's at every single Cub Scout meeting? Your boy. Who's building a race car for him? Me, right? My son Brock is a jock like me. I coach football. I coach basketball. I coach lacrosse. So I want the greatest relationship with them. I also want to have an incredible business. I also want to have an incredible rental portfolio, right? I also want to be in the best shape of my life, right? If I'm not going to take care of myself, so I'm a selfish person. I want to be excellent at all of these 8 different capacities. Because for me, just to be the richest person or the most wealthy person, that doesn't do anything without health and without friends and without love and without, all of the aspects spinning at the highest level. So what makes me feel better is moving forward a little bit every day in every aspect. I know you're like, oh my God, if I get to 10 grand a month in passive income, if I get to 20 grand, 30 grand, 40 grand, 50 grand a month in passive income, I'm not going to do this anymore. But if you truly love what you do,
passionate,
I swear, yes, you may not go on a weekend appointment or you may not work a Monday night till 9 p.m. You might give it to somebody else. But if you truly love what you do, you're going to play this game.
So let me ask you a question. What does your day look like? You're waking up at 4 a.m., right? You texted me the other day at like around 5-ish. I answered you right away because I'm up. This guy wouldn't have answered you, by the way. But I'm always up. 4 a.m., you're at the gym, you're working out. What time do you stop? Like, what time do you go home? Do you treat this like a 9 to 5? Or like, are you working past X amount of hours?
This is my business. This is my baby, right? This is my baby. This is my third child. Right? So your business is the same way.
Yeah.
Right? That's how I've always treated it as my business, right? This is a real business. Like every single person is really just worried, they get consumed with selling some houses. Think about building a business, building a brand that's going to be here for a decade, right? It shouldn't be whatever, it should just be Kevin. They should think about you and your last name, right? You and your first name as mortgages and loans, right? So your phone rings for people who need hard money. Your rings for people who need business financing. They should just look at you and think of financing. They should look at you and just think about real estate. So today I'm up very early, right? 4:30 in the morning. First thing I do is I come downstairs and I sit. I don't touch this phone because if I touch the phone and look at the phone, then I'm letting the phone control me. And whatever the emails and text messages, I'm immediately pulled into that. And I sit there in gratitude. So I used to be a union construction worker. So for 9 years, I was a union construction worker. So when I graduated from Stony Brook, I started this business of real estate part-time, right? I used to wake up at 4 a.m. I used to drive into Manhattan, and I would work on these big skyscrapers, right? I'd have overalls on, freezing cold outside. And I used to wear a respirator, and I used to put insulation on a pipe, right? And I used to listen to every self-help, self-development, motivation real estate book that I can get my hands on. This is back in the day before you had earbuds. So I used to have like headphones I had to wire through like my head, my bandana and my whole suit. And I used to be on the job sites, and every single guy on the job site used to think I was listening to Guns N' Roses, Metallica, Biggie Smalls, but I don't even have a radio in my car. I was listening to everything I can get my hands on. So, and then I used to wake up at 4 a.m., drive into Manhattan, work from 6 to like 1:30, and then drive home and hustle up real estate before I went full-time in real estate. So what I do is when I wake up in the morning, if it's the winter, I sit in front of my gas fireplace, I drink a cup of coffee, and I just think about how effing lucky and grateful I am for being where I am here today. But even before I had anything, I did that, right? I would start off and say, oh my God, look at this house, right? And in my head, my house is a mansion. It's an average house in Long Island. I'm like, holy cow, I own this house. Then I think about my kids. Oh my God, I have 2 beautiful, healthy boys. Then I'm like, oh my God, my wife, she's gorgeous. And then I think about the business and the rental portfolio and all the blessings that I have, right? So then I start there right away. I start there. And then what I just started doing about a year ago is I go through a list of 100 things that I want, right? Because if you think it, it becomes true, right? Because I realized everything in my life has happened because I started dreaming and becoming obsessed with it years and years and decades ahead. I dreamed of that apartment building, right? I dreamed about the house that we live in today, right? I dreamed about having a business like this. So now what I do is I go through 100 things every single day that I want to bring into my life. Down from the corniest things, down I want a pair of, clean white sneakers, down to some of the biggest things that we want, right? Got to start off clean every single day. And because the day gets crazy, this real estate game, these are people's biggest assets, right? And deals go left, deals go south, people don't get mortgages. Like this is a crazy, crazy sport. So I feel like I got to center myself before the whole day starts. And then from there, I don't go to the gym anymore. I work out of my house. But I'm big into cardio. So I do cardio 6 days a week, 30 minutes. Like I feel like you got to be dripping sweat. I want to live to 100. So to me, I got to get my heart racing out of my chest. So I go downstairs, I work out for an hour. Before I work out, I usually do about an hour worth of admin work, which is just getting I have a few other businesses. So I get all my staff up and running in all the different businesses, send out emails for the day. Then I work out. Then I see the boys. Either I drive them to school or get them off to school. And then I'll go out on appointments or whatever I'm, working for that day.
Hey, make sure you check us out at the realestateandchillpodcast.com. Buy your real estate merch now. Real estate merch with swag. A brand for hustlers only. Let's go.
Let me ask you a question because you're an excellent speaker. Has it ever, come across your mind? I built my business so successfully that I would like to do speaking events as far as being a speaker or whatever the case may be.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I do speak. I probably speak once a month for different real estate brokerages or events about sales or motivation and stuff like that. It's not something I'm actively hustling up, but people call me to speak, and I'm a paid speaker in that capacity. So I do that, but it's not something that I'm not looking to fly across the United States and do that because I built this business so I can control my time and be with my family, right? So I don't want to be in a hotel, I don't want to be in a hotel 50 weeks a year. So I'll go to North Carolina, speak for a day, but I'm going to bring my wife. And honestly, if it's going to be somewhere far, I'm bringing the boys with me. I'm all about these boys experiencing everything with me because if I make them walk through this with me, they're going to think that this is reality. Right? So my parents grew up in the projects, okay? They scraped and saved and bought one house. So when I graduated from Stony Brook, I thought my God-given right was to own a house just because I grew up in a house, right?
Right.
So my boys, they're going to grow up and think their God-given right is not to own one house. It's to own multiple houses. And you know how mommy and daddy make their living? from collecting the rent from the people who live in the houses. So I make my boys do everything with me, right? I owned a 2-family a few blocks from here. My son Brock was there signing the lease with the upstairs tenant. He's measuring the rooms with the tenants. Right? I want them to think that this shit is reality, right? Because I dreamed about it and walked into it. Now I want them to live it, right? I want them to live that the Karp family doesn't believe in debt, right? So if we can't write a check for it, we can't buy it, right? If they grow up thinking about that, they're going to make things happen to make sure it works like that.
Now, when you say we don't believe in debt, meaning that you took all of your commissions and just purchased real estate, or was it like a refi, HELOC, or whatever the case may be?
So now I'm changing the portfolio. My goal now is to double the portfolio.
Okay.
Right? Double the...
As far as doors or...
So today we have 31 doors in the personal portfolio,
Okay.
With some garages in there as well, which is 20 properties. The goal now is to, over the next 5 to 10 years, to grow that. Right. So now we're going to start to bring some leverage in to bring on some debt. But the way I built my portfolio was like a pyramid. Right. So I wanted it to be super, super strong at the bottom. And now we can maybe bring in 1/3 of debt, 50% of debt to the portfolio. The reason why I never brought debt in prior was I was playing for the cash flow. I was so deadly afraid that this game was going to end. Right. I still in my garage, I have my backpack filled with my union construction tools. Right. Because I'm afraid like this shit's going to end. Right, that's how I'm playing every day. So to me was, oh my God, we're so lucky. We had such a great year. We're so blessed. We made X number of dollars. Let's go buy another rental because that gives us another $1,500 a month in passive income. Right? What you guys have to see is why we were able to move the needle so much over the last 5 years was we started off with 1-2 family. Here it is. Here's the way of doing it. We bought a 2-family. We were living there, making $100 a month. So we had zero housing expense, basically. Then I worked my face off for 3 years and bought the second house. Cash. And now we were making $1,500 a month in passive income. Then what do? We started using that $1,500 to supplement our lives. I worked my face off and then sold 50 houses. And then 75 houses. And what do? We took all those and bought the third house. Then we started living off the $3,000 a month, right? And then we sold 100 houses. We bought 2 houses, right? So what we started doing is living off the passive income, and then the business, right, was doing super well. We're taking all that money, buy the next one, buy the next one, buy the next one, buy the next one. And I'm not telling people that they can't have nice things, right? But have nice things. So here's a story. My wife turned 40 about a year ago. Okay. So I wanted to do something special. So we decided we were going to go to Florida, and I wanted to have all of her sisters and my brother and a few other friends of us go. So what did I decide to do? I'm going to pay for it. Right. I'm going to pay for it because I'm blessed and I can pay for it. But Kevin, I paid for it with half of my passive income a month. So I want you to have crazy, stupid dreams and buy the stuff that you want, but don't do it with earned income. Do it with passive income. Because next month it's there again.
Yeah.
That's the truth. Honestly, you're just living proof that Rich Dad Poor Dad is.
Yeah, basically. Truth. I mean, we had a guest on, and he said, look, there's been over 40 million copies of that book sold. Not 40 million people have bought real estate. And I think that you're a great example of taking the risk and actually putting it into, perspective, put it into action. Because people manifest things all the time, but they don't put that action behind it. So it's amazing everything that you've accomplished. What's on your list besides buying more rental properties? Like, I feel like you're very passionate about everything you do. Mm-hmm. Is there something that you're still trying to achieve aside from real estate?
Really, it's funny because you get to a certain level and then you're like, all right, what's next? Right? What's next? I'm always going to sell houses. I realized that a few years ago. I thought that I could stop, but I can't. I love this. Right? It's my game. I'm always going to hopefully add more properties to the family portfolio. Right? Now we're looking to bring on more doors and more units. Going forward, I'm doing real estate development. I'm building $4 million homes right now. So we're definitely getting into other capacities of real estate. We loan hard money to people. I love real estate. This is where I'm the inside player. Right? So I'm always going to be in this capacity. I have the education course, which is great. And I love inspiring people who take action. Right? I hate inspiring people who don't take action. Right? So if one person hears me and does something that they normally wouldn't do, that makes my day. But if I inspire someone and they don't do anything with it, to me, it's like the word potential. Right? The word potential means that when someone says you have potential, it's almost like a negative thing because it means you could be something. Right?
Yeah. The house has potential, a lot of potential. It means it needs a lot of work.
Needs a lot of work, right?
It's true. But what I was going to ask you is, are all your properties in New York, or do you invest out of New York?
Yeah, good question. So I only invest in Suffolk County and probably about 4 towns.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, and the reason is because I am the inside player right here. I am not the inside player in North Carolina. I am not the inside player in Texas.
Interesting, because everybody says, invest out of state, it's cheaper, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, you have 20 plus properties,
Right
and
here.
they're all in
Right
Suffolk
here.
County.
They're in Ronkonkoma, Lake Grove, Farmingville, St. James, Nesconset, right? They all right here. I have, most of my properties are probably within a 3 to 4 mile radius
Of each other?
of each other.
Wow.
Because it's so real estate, once you scale it past 3 to 5 doors, it starts to not be a passive business anymore. So what really helped me scale it is I own today a property management company. I'm a partner in a property management company called Gold Coast Property Management. The reason why we partnered with them and started doing that was because we built our own little property management company for our own portfolio, because it wasn't passive income anymore, because we were dealing with tenants, toilets, and termites. Right, so if the portfolio's like across 20 different towns, Kev, what happens is it's impossible to manage. By us keeping them probably in a 3 to 4 mile radius, we're able to have a full-time maintenance guy who just works on the car portfolio. And then when we buy something super distressed and add it to the portfolio, we could bring our crew over just to renovate that and add it to the portfolio.
Makes a lot of sense. For that person who's listening right now that just loves your story, wants to get started, what would be your advice to them? Somebody who's brand new, or not even brand new, somebody who's just been making mistakes and not using their income to create, passive income. What would you say to them?
Biggest thing is get your living expenses down to nothing, right? So move in with people, house hack, right? Stop trying to keep up with everybody else, right? Stop trying to look cool. Right? Cool guys go broke, right? Buy assets, right? I was never the cool kid in school, right? Because I wasn't playing to look cool. I was playing for 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So the biggest thing, buy real estate that produces income, right? That pays you and your family, rain or shine, right? God forbid I die tomorrow, Jessica and the family will be fine for the rest of their lives because of the portfolio. So buy real estate and then spend money on education, right? I know it's self-serving because I have an education course, but really it's if you want to get from here to here without having to go through all the roadblocks that I had to, then you have to pay someone to get you there, right? When I was in the beginning, I paid to get to where I wanted to be. I paid to be in circles and around people that I needed to be around, right? That's just the way that I did it. Right? So if you want to move your nucleus of people that you're with, sometimes you have to pay to get into their network. And then look who you're hanging out with, right? You are the income and the success and the wealth of the 3 to 5 people you hang out with, right? So look at who you're hanging out with and look at what their goals are. Listen, I lost a lot of friends. Right? I don't really have many friends. I don't really go out and socialize besides my wife and her family, right? Because a lot of the people I grew up with are great people and amazing, but they weren't doing what I was doing, right? They were working their jobs, going home, hanging out, relaxing, right? Me, going out partying when I was younger. No, I there was no vacations. There was no partying in the Hamptons, right? It was work, and then you know how the friends get together to go out to dinner? I wasn't going out to dinner. I was either prospecting or going on a listing appointment. So I lost a lot for the first decade. Right now I'm able to gain some of it back, but you got to sacrifice something to be where if you want to be special, if you want to be great, if you want to be legendary, right?
Definitely. Where can people purchase this course?
Thank you. So people can purchase the course at theilliteratemillionaire.com. So illiteratemillionaire.com. And I will give everybody a coupon code. So this will get you $500 off, which is M500. So like millionaire 500. So it's mill 500. MILL 500. when you guys go to check out, which will get you $500 off, thanks to these two gentlemen.
It's amazing. We appreciate that.
Is that a confetti popper?
I think so.
There you go.
No, we're saving it. So anyone who uses mill500 at theilliteratemillionaire.com will get $500 off. Anyone can find me on social media, which is Bryan Karp, L-I. Bryan is with a Y. They can find me on Instagram or YouTube, Bryan Karp, L-I.
Anything else you want to leave us off with before we sign off? I mean, you've dropped so many gems. Very insightful episode. I'm honored that you're even here. That you made this happen because it's definitely a privilege.
This is one of my favorite episodes ever.
Yeah,
honestly.
definitely. Learned a lot.
They say that on every episode. I'm gonna watch back. Ark, tell me if they say that on other episodes. All right, so the biggest takeaways is, honestly, guys, there is nothing special about Bryan Karp, right? We were talking about this offline. I am just consistent and disciplined. That's all it is. Consistent and disciplined, right? So, and I'm obsessed with raising the temperature in my life a little bit every single day, right? So it started off, and I hate cardio. And I just give the example because it's something that's very, you could see it. I started doing cardio 2 days a week. And I was like, all right, this is good for me. And then I did 3 days a week, then 5 days a week, now 6 days a week, right? I fast almost every day. I started fasting 2 days a week. I like the way it made me feel. 5 days a week, 6 days a week, right? Same thing with your prospecting. You're prospecting 1 hour, all right, master it, then get yourself to 2 hours. But don't just do it for a month. And then you look and say, I speak to people all the time. They're prospecting in any door knocking, cold calling, or networking, whatever you think is prospecting, and then you're expecting to have a return today. No, you have to just put out good energy, do the action, and then it will all come together, right? So the two things for everyone to know is consistency and discipline. Every single person could have my life or even a bigger, better life. They just have to be consistent and disciplined for a decade. Amazing.
There you go.
All right, how do we do this?
Just gotta turn it. Woo! Man, like I said, I'm just speechless about everything.
If you're watching this, make sure to follow.
Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share this episode because a lot of gems in this episode. Again, we appreciate you coming by. We know that your schedule probably looks like.
I got here right at 10:01. I was right on time.
I know.
And I have my alarm set for 11:40, so I don't have to think about anything, but I have to walk out this door at 11:40, so I'm good.
Wow.
So you're gonna give me 10 minutes back, everybody. I got an extra 10 minutes to catch up on everything.
That's awesome. Well, do the honors.
All right. Well, that was the latest episode of the Real Estate and Chill podcast. We will see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Real Estate and Chill podcast with James Chaudhry and Kevin Iglesias. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, share this with your friends, your enemies, your mother-in-law. No, seriously, this podcast is so fucking good. You might want to tell your ex. See you next time.